want to start with this. Year one last year at Nebraska. What was the thing when you got there that you said, we got to change this or implement this right away?
I think it was really just getting the guys to know each other. I think in this age of transfer portal, player mobility, when a new staff comes in, a lot of times a new staff comes in, they're bringing the guys who played for them.
Yeah.
I couldn't really bring anyone from the NFL with me.
Yeah.
So I think it was just eating together, spending time together, trying to build some sort of bonds of brotherhood to get us through what's always going to be a tough season.
Yeah. How different do things feel right now for you and for the program going into year two versus year one?
It's night and day. Very grateful to the guys last year. They bought in pretty quickly. I told them my records in year one are like 1-11 and 2-10. So let's try to do better than that. But I feel like the players in Nebraska have been very trusting. They've been very open, and it was hard last year to lose our last 4 games. Lose them like the way we did. But I think we actually grew closer going through that adversity together.
Yeah. I was just looking before we started this. I mean, you just mentioned the last 4 games, but you guys lost 5 games by a combined, 19 points last season? Mm-hmm. How much of an emphasis have you put on finishing in those situations, finding ways to win when the game's tight?
I'm not a big super slogan guy, but we kind of came in this year, and I told the guys, I said, listen, at least for me, I'm chasing those 3 points. One of those games was overtime, so really it was like 5 by 12. Yeah. It's crazy. So I was like, hey, look, if we just get 3 points better, there's no reason to panic. We're not going to do things different. We didn't go fire a bunch of coaches. We didn't change our offense, defense. Just get a little bit better. So I think as we enter training camp, I'll spend a lot of time on the end of the game. I mean, I want not everyone. We practiced it. They know how to handle it. I want them to get to the end of the game, Adam, and almost enjoy it. Yeah. Almost enjoy the pressure. Their heart rate doesn't raise up. They're fighting the physical signs of anxiety just because they've done it so much. And so we're gonna do that, and that's really my job. Yeah.
Well, one of my favorite parts of your coaching career is what you did at Temple. I mean, did a great job there with a program that hadn't won many games, right? Didn't know how to win. If you look back at that time, is there something you learned during your time there that you're now implementing at Nebraska?
Yeah. I remember when I got the job, Bruce Arians, who had been the coach at Temple, he called me. He said, Matt, you're not going to have the best facilities. You're not going to have the best resources, but you do have great people. Mm-hmm. And I believe you win with people. Yeah. We probably have the best, if not close to, we probably have the best facilities in college football in Nebraska. But it's really the people in those rooms, and it's the connections you have. Like going back to Temple, P.J. Walker, Hassan Reddick, Tyler Matakevich, like those guys, they stay in touch with me to this day because of the connections we had. I want those same connections with these guys at Nebraska. Yeah.
How has the new look Big Ten, bringing in the 4 West Coast teams, changed your philosophy or your strategy at all? Maybe in recruiting, allowing you to go more national. Has it changed anything?
I think at Nebraska we always have to go more national, but I think opening up California for us is a really good fit. Nebraska for years, some of the best players that played for the Huskers in the heyday came from California. So those guys knowing they can always go back home and play a game or 2 a year is gonna be helpful. Yeah. I think schematically, stylistically, we'll have to see. I mean, the weather is such a factor. Yeah. Now travel's a factor in this conference, and it's really like being in the NFL.
Yeah. Your defense, you guys do a lot of unique stuff on defense with just the scheme and philosophy. What do you expect out of that group in 2024? Where do you think they can really take the next step?
I think it's 2 things. I think it's we were great on defense, except we'd give up an occasional big play. Yeah. And I think our guys have to understand when you are great on defense, you're going to get the double moves. You're going to get the trick plays. They know they can't line up and beat you. Mm-hmm. And so taking some of those away, I think is going to be really important. But taking the ball away. For everything that we did, we didn't take the ball away, and that's the most important, in my mind, stat on defense. Yeah. And so having some guys who can affect the football, that's really what I'm hoping to see this year.
There's a lot of excitement around your quarterback, Dylan Raiola, the freshman who's coming in. Big recruiting win for you guys, and feel like it was one of the things that really shifted momentum in the offseason for you. What are the things you do with a young quarterback like that when you're trying to prepare him to play in big moments of big games? Is it situationally in practice? How are you getting him ready?
Well, I think it's teaching the game. I mean, I think a lot of people teach systems, and then those quarterbacks get to the NFL and they're not prepared because they haven't learned the game. I remember listening to Tom Brady at one point talk about the impact Bill Belichick had on him early in his career of teaching the game. Mm-hmm. And so, we practice it, we model it in practice. But as the head coach, I'm not the play caller. I don't coach the quarterbacks. But I try to spend time with my quarterbacks, making sure they understand the way I see the game, what I'm looking for on 3rd and 9. And if they can master it and see it the same way, then we can be really aggressive.
Yeah.
And so that's why I think quarterbacks who stay somewhere for several years, even as you look last year, some of those guys might have transferred. They transferred early, and they were able to be in the system. Penix was at Washington for a couple years because you start to think and play the way the coordinator and the head coach see the game.
Yeah. What's one thing about your team or your program that you think will surprise people this season?
I think just how explosive and athletic we are on offense. Yeah. Again, we were poor on offense last year, but we have skill. We took some terrible injuries early last year, but that allowed us to play a bunch of young players. Yeah. So those older players are coming back. Those young players have a bunch of experience now, and I think we'll be one of the more explosive teams. Yeah,
you have offensive lineman Ben Scott here, is a great player. What do you expect out of your offensive line, and how do you get them to be an elite unit that you need at Nebraska?
Yeah, last year I was really proud of the group. I think we finished 3rd or 4th in rushing, and that's without being able to really throw the ball. Yeah. I think if we can be more balanced this year, those guys, they play as one. They're a year older, a year more experienced. One of the reasons why I brought Ben is he could be playing in the NFL right now. Yeah. He chose to come back and play one more year. So I think they'll lead the way. Yeah.
Last question for you, Coach. Day 1 training camp, you're meeting with your team. What's going to be your message to them about this season?
It sounds kind of corny, so please forgive me. But I just want them to understand that, in today's day and age, I want them to understand that skill beats talent. Yeah. You get recruited because of your talent. A lot of times they think everything's about talent, but really it's about skill. It's why Tom Brady can be the best player in football at 45 years old. Yeah. So I want them to develop their skills in training camp. And when you get into those pressure moments, you get in those high anxiety moments, when you know you're skilled, and you rely on that, and you win those games.
Yeah. Awesome. Appreciate it, Coach. Good luck.
My friend.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.